Hello, everybody. This is your host, Chris Baker Jr., and you're listening to the podcast or watching the podcast, Tell Me Your Story. And today's guest is Da'Sheon Nix, right? Is that how you say
Close.
it?
Da'Sheon.
And we're going to do like how we always do. We're going to just jump right into this and talk about, where did it start for you? Childhood. Where'd you grow up at?
From Sandusky, Ohio. I grew up on Reese Street, Hancock and Reese. Yeah, that's really where my origins at. Again, that intersection or whatnot, and then I went to Monroe Elementary School. Transition up to Mills and Jackson and to Sandusky High School. That's really where it starts at, and my origins are my base to kind of where I'm at right now in life.
And then, like, have you been out here recently? Have you seen it lately? You've been coming
Yeah,
out here lately?
I come on pretty often. I would say a couple times a year. I do a lot of either charity events or speaking engagements. I think the last time I was home was in, I think October. I had a couple meetings in October. Was seeing all the different changes downtown, just the upgrades and the progress that's taking place in the city. I just saw on Blake Harris's page, I think maybe Friday, he was kind of going live or showcasing a new business downtown, it's like a bar, but it has different like activities and things like that. So yeah, I love to see the progress in the city.
Yes, definitely. Blake Harris too, man. He is really he's taken off these last couple years. He's staying
Yeah,
behind
yeah,
his
that's my
word.
guy.
So
Yep,
shout out to you if you're watching.
that's my guy. Closing, bridging the gap.
All right, you want to talk about your childhood, how it started for you?
Yeah, like I said, grew up. I mean, born and raised in Sandusky, Ohio. Well, my mother, my father, my brother, my sister, and just typical childhood. Just family just trying to make ends meet. Living in a community that is notorious when it comes to Sandusky, Ohio, and that's the Hancock and Reese area. But just was fell in love with sports, and that was kind of sports and academics was kind of like my basis, my getaway, my escape, and just my way of interacting and engaging with other people and growing. Like I said, sports was just huge. So a lot of the kids in the neighborhood, we just got together. And at that age, you want to play all the sports you can all in one day. So, as I started getting a little bit older, I started looking at the fact that I could potentially take being a student athlete to a level that I can either get college paid for or make it, proceed on to a professional level. So, like I said, continue to, progress, academically, athletically in the Sandusky area. My senior year, going into my senior year, or whatnot, during my last couple years of high school, just I got a lot of, football offers, scholarship offers, and also basketball. So I decided to take my invite, or not an invite, I'm sorry, accepted a full ride scholarship to Northwestern University. And as soon as it started, it ended for me. I actually went into, or actually in the middle of my high school or my senior year, I found out I had a torn lateral meniscus in my knee, but still was projected as a starter at Northwestern my freshman year. I came up to Evanston, Illinois, a week after high school graduation to get ready for the season. Worked out all summer, and I get to fall camp, and a week and a half in, I was told that I'm gonna need to go back to the Cleveland Clinic, get my knee checked out, and get on the donor list for a transplant. So
Wow.
had a meniscal transplant in December of my freshman in 2000. Rehab for a couple years, but I was deemed just unable to kind of return to play. So I joke about it, but I probably had the shortest career in college football history.
I mean, really, kind of like want to dig into that a little bit. Kind of explain how you were feeling. You were just on the peak pretty much. You're on the rise. You're like, I'm out there, I'm almost there to get to the pros. Kind of
Yeah,
just tell us
yeah.
how
I
you
mean,
felt.
it's heartbreaking, for something that you've been doing for so long, and for it to be, in a sense, taken away. So yeah, you go through all the different emotions that come along with it, and I think what made mine a little bit different, or I can't pinpoint one play, one move, one fall, one hit that like started the process. So for me to get to a point where like I'm having a transplant and I can't pinpoint when it started or how I could have prevented, that just made it a little bit worse. And then, the start transition or, the opposite of being from Hancock and Reese, Sandusky, Ohio, and Hayes Avenue to going to a prestigious school like Northwestern. I mean, it was a complete culture shock. So, one thing about athletics, you kind of, being an athlete, it kind of puts a shield around you where it helps you, create conversations or have conversations with people, to be in different circles and to transition to a school like Northwestern and not have that, that extra, support, or I wouldn't say support, but that extra, you know, piece to the puzzle of being an athlete was definitely was tough. And, that pressure of, you know, hopefully getting to the point of being in a position that I can take care of my family, give back to the community, that was always lingering in the back of my mind as well. That, this injury is not just going to affect me, but it's going to affect, my family, my friends, and all the people in, just the communities that I want to support.
Now, was that like your goal at first? Was that your plan like for your career, or did you have something in the at least like a backup plan just in case?
No, so and that's what's kind of funny about my story is, I figured out at a younger age that, at some point your athletic career is going to end. So at a younger age, I just figured out that I'm going to use athletics and being a student athlete as best I can to get to where I want to go. And my ultimate goal in life is, I just want to be a career person who connects people to resources and help impact, community like the one I grew up in. So and it kind of started from Sandusky. I would say second and third grade, I would go to the high school basketball and football games, and the guys that I would see, like I idolized them, and um, I wanted to be just like them. And my thought was, oh, athletics is going to be the ticket to get me out of my community, and blah blah blah. But fast forward, some of those guys that I was idolizing, you know, they were going through their own life situations where they wasn't making the best choices, and going the complete opposite of what I thought athletics can take you. So I figured out that education was going to be the tool or the key that's going to help me get to where I want to go. So I unofficially started this career in the fifth grade. Where I started a reading program at my elementary school for students who, well, for one, if it was too cold, snowy, or rainy to go outside for recess, you can come into the library and read. Or if you just, socially awkward or just shy and you don't want to go outside for recess, you can come in and read. And I was just hustling teachers. I need a pen and some markers or highlighters that I can give away. You read 10, 20 books. So that unofficially got me into the career that I'm in now, or started the foundation. So my backup plan was really athletics. My primary thing in life was to be in a position to help the demographics that, or the communities like the one I came from. So I look at my injury as a shortcut to what I was going to do. I've been in the nonprofit sector here in Chicago since '04, and again, working with the same demographic of people who come from communities or households that are either facing social or economic barriers.
So from time to time, do you just kind of wish you do you ever had like a setback where you're like, man, I wish I could have kept going with my, kept playing in the athletic field,
Uh,
or
oh, most definitely. I mean, any athlete who's ever played, at some point it's going to end. You always reminisce about the, your high school or college days, or you just wish you had that opportunity. So I think that's valid for anyone. But for me, of course, like I said, for it to happen that way, where I didn't even get an opportunity to really get started at the college level. So I'm always thinking back to, man, if I would have done this differently, or, worked out this when I was younger, something like that. And then, so many guys that I played with or against at the high school level who, made it to the college level or played professionally. It's just thinking like, man, I could be out there as well. And then, of course, the financial status of, guys who make it to the league, or, any professional athlete, of being able to have, my thought was to have more resources to be able to do the work that I'm doing. So I would definitely love one of those NFL checks to, do the work that I'm doing now.
don't we all? Don't we all?
Exactly.
Now, would you say Northwestern like prepared you for where you're at now in life, or
Yeah, I would definitely say so. Some of the biggest, brightest people in the world when it comes to not just even just your professors, but just the student body. I mean, some of the people that I went to school with, who of course are alums now, who are owning their own companies, entrepreneurs, are doing really really well in life. I would definitely say the academics and like my degree plays a direct correlation to the work that I do now, but also just the being on campus, interacting and socializing and networking, I think both the social aspect of the university and also the academics have definitely played a direct and indirect role into the work that I'm doing. And I would take it a step further than that is not just what I've learned at Northwestern, but all the lessons and tools and knowledge I learned just growing up in Sandusky.
Hmm. And just explain, just tell like people how the culture shock was from being from Sandusky and then going to
Man.
Northwestern. Just talk about that for a
Yeah.
minute.
I mean, it's just it's a complete opposite. I mean, from the educational levels or whatnot, just to the overall demographic of the university or Evanston versus Sandusky, Ohio. So leaving Hancock and Reese or Hayes Ave, where all my guys were just hang out and play basketball at JC Park, to going to. I actually remember when the week after high school graduation when I came up here and literally getting off the exit and I was seeing like Bloomingdale's and all these really high end stores. And I was like, I felt like I was just in a whole different space. And I remember my maybe first or second week, me and my roommate, we were just sitting in our dorm and we were just like looking out the window. And literally for like 15 minutes straight, all the cars were Lexus, Benz. It was like all high end cars. And it was just like the difference of if I see those type of cars in my community or communities like mine that I grew up in, the way that most people, obtain those cars are a little bit different than some of the people that I saw driving in Evanston, Illinois. So it's definitely a difference. So I think those are the biggest two, and just the difference with the annual income of Evanston and Northwestern students and their families or whatnot compared to my hometown. It was definitely a difference.
So when you came back to Sandusky, did you feel different in a way, or were you kind of like,
Well, yes and no. I would say, yes, because, well, yes and no. I would say yes because you almost got to, get out the mode of grinding academically at Northwestern versus just to hanging out with my friends. Um, but at the same time, I've been playing sports and traveling, from, being fourth and fifth grade through high school. So being able to kind of interact and engage with different people in different settings, different social economic, tax brackets and things like that. I've kind of always had that in some way, and I think a lot of that was due to academics and athletics.
so have you traveled a lot?
You say that again?
Have you traveled a lot? Have
Yeah,
you been
yeah.
to a lot of
I mean,
places?
that's one of the things my wife and I we do now is like, you know, our biggest thing is we just love like being able to, I mean, just see the world, create experiences and just seeing different things. So like that's really one of our biggest hobbies now is just traveling and, being able to get out. Uh, Growing up in Sandusky, literally my boundaries that I knew before I started traveling for sports was Lake Erie to the north, Bogart Road to the south, Venice Heights to the west, and Bayshore to the east. Like that's all I knew. So to be able to start traveling with sports and getting to other areas out of Ohio through middle school and high school sports, and then being able to come to Chicago or the Evanston area, and now that I'm of adult age and being able to travel, being able to see the world. Like my wife and I, we just went to Africa, Tanzania in November, and we were there for like 2 weeks, and we was in the Serengeti and things like that. So as a kid, I couldn't even fathom the thought of being able to do that, or even having a passport at that time.
Hold on, let's tap into that for a minute. Let's talk about culture shock. Let's kind of talk about that for a bit, being just in Africa. How it was like just from living here in the States to going over there and just really just seeing it all.
Yeah, I would say not as much of a culture shock. It was more of like seeing the way other people live or whatnot. But as far as like the people and I don't know, I kept telling my wife, I'm like, I feel like I'm at home to the point where it's I think 120 dialects or 20 languages or whatever in Tanzania, and we learned a little bit of how to say hi, good morning, things like that. And one of our tour guides, um, it was a group of people walking past us, and we said hello, and the language or whatnot. And the tour guide told me that they thought I was from there. So the way they responded was in their dialect, not just not Swahili. So it was, yeah, I literally felt like I was at home. And, but like I said, the culture shock of the different tribes and the way they live, and living off the land and the animals. Like that's definitely a difference.
Pretty much. So whoever's listening right now, watching what he just said, if you didn't quite understand it, he was saying like basically like it was basically like saying, "What's up?" to like somebody you would know
Yeah,
at the house, somebody in your home area. That's how it was
yeah,
there. They felt like
yeah.
you
So
were
like the universal language. So like I said, I think it's 120 different dialects and 20 different languages, but Swahili is the one that everyone knows, no matter what part of Tanzania you're in. So if tribes speak to each other in their own dialect because they know it, Swahili is the one that's universal. But when I spoke in Swahili, their response was in their dialect, as if I was part of their tribe, or they knew I was from, or assumed that I was from there. So yeah, I mean, that was just, it was just fun, again, seeing how other people live, different culture, and being embraced by someone from a whole different continent. Like we had an absolute blast. And then, you know, in the United States, or just walking in your neighborhood, you see dogs and cats, maybe see a coyote, but I mean, we saw everything: rhinos, lions, hippos, and they were in. It wasn't in a zoo, wasn't in a circus. We're actually in their habitat and environment. So that was absolutely amazing.
like kind of describe that a little bit. I could imagine like seeing them just out and about, not caged up or anything. Where you kind of like feeling like a little scared, a little nervous, or were you like, wow, this.
No, not nervous. I think. I mean, you kind of put your trust in the guides or whatnot. But I mean, literally to have like elephants like cross in front of you, like 25 elements cross in front of your truck, or we were going to go to a hot air balloon ride one morning, and to get to the destination where you get on the hot air balloon, our driver stopped, and of course he's from there, he's from that tribe, and we always knew anytime he stopped, it was something it's something that he saw, and it was like 20 lions eating like a wildebeest, like right off the side of the road, and to see that was like, yeah, it was absolutely amazing. Like this is nature at its finest, and we get like a front row seat to it.
Did you get up close to a lion? Did you get to pet one or?
No, absolutely not. But I mean, it's as close as 4 feet. From being in our truck to like lions just sitting in the grass right next to us. It was amazing.
No. What about the elephant? Did you get to ride one? Did you get to jump on the back
Nah.
and go for a
So
walk?
that's what I'm saying. It's a little bit different. Like you go to the circus, or you go to like I mean, carnivals and things like that, where you can kind of ride. But that's a whole different environment. I'm like, these were in the wild in the Serengeti, where you can't ride them, or you can, but it may be your last ride.
It would be a good outcome for you, really.
Hmm.
Okay, besides Africa, where else were you at over there?
Oh man, we've been to Bali, we've been to Seoul, South Korea, we've been to Morocco. Just went to Dominican Republic last month. Um, yeah, we're a little bit of everywhere. Madrid. Yeah, we've been a little bit of everywhere.
Please tell me you're writing a book about this. This is right about my
No,
birthdays.
I got a cousin. You may know Jordan Arnell. Like he's my cousin. Does a lot of art in Sandusky, Ohio area. He's been telling me for years I should write a book just about my life and things like that. But maybe one day.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Just like you're talking about traveling all over the place and you're seeing all these different things. Just I can only imagine being the reader of the book, just taking it all in, just from what you're telling me. Just being in the Jeep and seeing a lion, a pack of lions just tearing it up, and then
Yeah,
elephants crossing past you, and then not only that, but being other places as well, just traveling all over the place with your wife. And I mean, that's an experience itself, just seeing the world.
yeah. Maybe a travel blog one day. But to be honest with you, a picture, a book doesn't do it justice, man. It's like it's almost to the point where people say, "Oh, you have to be there." It literally is that, like, you have to be there.
I
So
believe that without
that's
a doubt.
that's one thing I try to do. Like if we go places, I try to make it a habit to either post pictures and videos on social media, or my social media accounts, and I just know that I've been that kid where, for one, I was, if I see something that's different or new, I've always been intrigued by it, but I also know that it's people who that's in my network who may not have the opportunities or the resources to do the same thing. So it's like my my opportunity to kind of share my experiences directly with the people who may not be able to do the same thing. So I'll definitely continue to share pictures and videos, but being there up close and personal, and seeing the Maasai tribe and things like that. I mean, the best experience is literally just being there.
Has it made you more spiritual in a way, or where would you stand at on that?
More spiritual. I wouldn't say more spiritual. Just for one, I would say more appreciative of just life and resources and opportunities. I would say overall just more knowledgeable. And you learn so much when you go to these different places. And also just more patience. I've always been like, oh man, like I don't know all the languages, and I think early on when we were traveling, like I would try to go places that spoke English as the primary language, or it was easier, and that's not always the case. So taking a step back and embracing their culture and their language and things like that versus being a little bit selfish. So I would say I wouldn't say more spiritual, just more aware, more appreciative, more knowledgeable, and just yeah, I would say those would probably be the biggest things.
Where would you say were your favorite places been so far?
Favorite places so far, I would definitely say this Tanzania trip was hands down number one. I mean, to literally spend almost 2 weeks or whatever in Africa and Tanzania, and standing in the Serengeti, where as a kid I only saw Serengeti if I was watching Animal Planet or something like that. To actually be staying there. Morocco was probably number two on the list. Again, culture, and at that time it was my first time traveling and taking trips within my trip. And what I mean by that is beforehand it was like we'll go somewhere and that's like just where we stayed at. But the Morocco trip, we were there for I think 2.5 weeks, and we stayed in like 9 different beds and 9 different areas in that span. So I got to see a lot of different cultures, and just a lot of different opportunities and experiences. And we stayed a night in the Sahara Desert, where in a tent and all that good stuff, rode camels. So that's definitely probably number two. And I think the tie for three is Bali. Was absolutely amazing. And we went to Maui for Christmas and New Year's a couple years ago. And again, the experience, I mean, helicopter tours, cliff jumping, just things that I wouldn't even imagine as a kid.
Cliff jumping, man. How were you feeling there?
Yeah. I mean, it, fearful. And the reason I say that is because when you get to the area, it's different levels or whatnot. So I was like, just to check this off the list, I'm gonna find one of the lowest ones to jump in. Um, and once you get there, it's once you get to the edge, it's like everybody's watching you, so you got to jump. So I'm sitting there before I go pick a ledge, and this guy was like, "Hey, have you ever done this before?" And I was like, "No," and he was like, "It's absolutely fun, man. Follow me." And I'm following him. I had absolutely no idea where he was going, and he went to like it was like maybe like 50 feet, 60 feet, and it's not like a it's not like a diving board where you walk out and then you can walk back. It's like it's rock. So once you get there, like your decision is not your decision anymore. You have to jump, and jumped in. So I mean,
All right.
fear at first, but fear fueled the action, and jumped in, swam out, checked it off the list, got back in the car.
When you when you jumped though, how were you feeling? What was going through your
Now,
head? You're like, oh Lord.
no, my thought was once I jumped, my thought was as soon as I hit the water, swim to the surface as soon as possible, because it's not like a pool where you know how deep it is unless the locals or someone tells you. But it was really, really, really deep. So that was my first thought. Was as soon as I hit the water, fight and get back to the surface, and then that was it. Did it once, and that was it. One of one.
Wow. Okay, just in case the listener watching wants, they want to know, what the heck do you do for a career that you're able to do all this?
Oh man. So I've been, like I mentioned earlier, I've been working in the nonprofit sector since I graduated from Northwestern. So the organization I work for now is called Tutoring Chicago. So what we do at Tutoring Chicago, we provide free one-on-one tutoring services, weekly tutoring services for first through eighth grade Chicagoland students facing economic and social barriers. So my role and responsibility within the organization is as a community relations director, I spearhead our student and volunteer recruitment efforts, and also overall community engagement. So I go to a lot of different meetings and workshops and things like that to, for one, meet the key players in the city of Chicago and in different areas, learn more about what's going on in the communities in which our students reside in, but to bring that information back so we can better serve our students. So, you know, that's what I've been doing forever in some capacity. Like I said, but I've just been at this organization for almost 4 years. But as far as being able to like take trips like that is, it really comes down to our mindset. So my wife and I, we absolutely don't care about material things. Well, we don't have any debt, we don't have any kids, and we don't care about material things. So our thing is all about experiences and creating memories. So the money, certain people may spend on cars and, you know, Prada bags and things like that. I mean, we live meagerly as far as like the way we live. We rather spend money on having those opportunities to take advantage of those experiences.
And that is like a huge note that you just hit on. It's all about the mindset.
Yep. That's really it. That's really it.
Just kind of explain that a little bit more to the listeners and the watchers so they understand exactly what you're saying. Just in case they
Well,
didn't.
well, I'll break it down like as far as being debt free. So, I was able to go to Northwestern on a scholarship, so my undergrad was completely paid for. So, so many people in the world who have gone to college and they're still paying student loans. So, I didn't have that issue, and my wife was able to get she went to Northwestern as well, but she was able to pay off her debt within like a year or two of graduation. So, we scratched that off, and then as far as like cars are paid for. We don't have a house. We live in a condo here in Chicago. Um, so like the debt portion is gone. We don't have any kids. We have tons of nieces and nephews, but as far as like the finance or the financial responsibility of raising, your own kid, we don't have that. But as far as like just material things, like we both grew up very similar. You know, you from Ohio, Sandusky, Hancock and Reese or Chester City, Sandusky, and my wife grew up on the south side of Chicago. So, growing up not having much, has been, you know, it's been a commonality for both of us forever. And we also joke about it, like even growing up and not having a lot of resources or money, we still have fun and enjoy life. So that let me know it doesn't take money to actually have fun and do things like that. I mean, we survive, we have fun. I remember me and my guys would have 20 of us and we probably had a total of like $20 out of the total of us. But we absolutely enjoy the weekend playing sports, running around, Sandusky, and just creating those experiences and memories. Like I mentioned earlier, my boundaries in Sandusky, of Lake Erie, Bayshore, Bogart Road, and Venice Heights. And to be able to focus more money and resources to do things like that and travel, like that's a priority. And then, we're both pretty big philanthropists. So, the thought of, supporting other people, giving back and helping other people, it comes back full circle somehow, some way. So that's really the mindset. And plus we're both really big on social capital, and um, who and how do you interact, engage with people, how do you build trust and build that, have that integrity. So, I may not have $1 million, but I know people who do, or I may not have, a Ferrari, but so being able to kind of still be in those circles, and not just be in those circles, but actually contributing to those circles, I think it's beneficial in so many different ways.
I hope whoever's watching this right now, listening, is taking notes. Taking notes, man. Because, I mean, you're hitting on some really good points. It's just showing people how to live and not really focus on, what the world pretty much throws at you.
Yeah, I mean, because when it comes to life, everybody's gonna have roadblocks and hurdles and detours. It's all about how do you, for one, understanding that it's gonna happen at some point. No matter where you're from, what's your skin tone or anything like that, everyone goes through life hurdles and roadblocks. Is how do you, for one, identify those? Sometimes you can't prevent them, sometimes you can, but how do you react and respond to them? I think that's the biggest thing because we're all gonna have them at some point, but not giving up is always the key.
Now, here's my next question for you. So, the challenges that you have faced, how have you handled them?
I was just working hard. I mean, keeping it's this song by Lil Wayne where he's just talking about driving, keep going. Like up, you get a flat tire, keep going. You hit a pothole, keep going. And it's like I look at those roadblocks or just those tough issues or things that come up as their life lessons and their learning opportunities. How do I use that? So try to switch a negative situation or a life situation into either a positive or a learning opportunity. So how can this happen for a reason? And whatever that reason is, how can I use it and grow from it? So I think those has been the biggest things. And you know, utilizing your network, that's always, or your support network or your network, and just keep going. Having that mentality that, you know, everybody, I mean, every day can't be great, but it's just one day. So how do you keep going?
What would you say is like the biggest challenge you ever faced that you didn't think you were gonna make
I,
it through it?
I would say my biggest challenge is probably my knee situation. I think up until that point, you go through life situations, you broke up with a girlfriend or something like that. But as far as real life altering situations, that was the first really big one. And, you know, again, like I said, I came here a week after high school graduation, not even a week. I graduated on a Sunday and was here that next Saturday. And, being 18 years old, out on my own, I think when I came here, of course, I knew coaches through recruiting or whatnot, but the only other two people I knew in the city of Chicago as a whole was my aunt and my uncle. So to like transition to a whole new city, not knowing anyone, to a prestigious university that, I know the people that went there had more money than me, went to better schools than me, and came from better neighborhoods than me, and to like not have the one thing or one of the things that have been a staple in my life, like that was probably the toughest thing. And to go from that, and how do you adjust, not even just mentally but physically as well. Like I said, I went, transplant to rehab, and just trying to get back on the field, and getting that message from the doctor that you can't play anymore, it's over, versus hey, you have an Orlando Pace career, you retire, you're in the Hall of Fame, and it's over, versus literally having, the doctor say, we can't release you to play anymore. So like, that was probably definitely the biggest one. And that moment plays a role in almost everything that I do now, whether it's personally or professionally.
That's awesome though, man. I mean, you kind of you really were kind of you didn't really say it, but you like when it happened to you, you capitalized on it right away instead of
Yeah, I just
instead of being
I
like,
didn't have
oh,
a choice though. Yeah, I mean, my thought process at the time was, what are my options? Do I go back home? Like I know what's going on at home and the likelihood of, the pros and cons of going back home, or do I continue to stay at this university? So those are my options. And I think another thing that kind of helped me get through it, I mean, from the athletic standpoint, is I made Northwestern academics my sport. So again, my thought was they come from better schools, they probably had better ACT, SAT scores and better resources. But one thing that I figured out was, or my thought process was, they can't outwork me. So my tests and exams, finals and things like that literally became my sport, where studying for tests was like practice, exams, finals was like the game. And then graduating from Northwestern University was like my Super Bowl. So me having a competitive mind, competitive spirit, and being able to switch that from physically being able to perform versus mentally and academically, that was my way of, coping with something like that.
and you always had that fire in you that you just after that ended, you were like, okay, I'm gonna take this challenge. I'm gonna
Yeah.
jump onto this, and then
I mean, you almost have to. You got to you got to put in different components and compartments, and you got to keep moving on. You can't harp on one thing, because if I would have been down in the dumps and let it get to me for months and months, I mean, I could have lost my scholarship. I could have been back home. I could have been getting in trouble or using that, that as negative fuel versus positive fuel.
and thank God it didn't happen because who knows where would you be? You wouldn't be traveling the world. You wouldn't be who
No,
knows, you know?
not at all. But also, like, going back to when I was a kid, I just wanted to help people. So whether it was through athletics or through what I'm doing now, like I knew that was going to be my end goal of, how do I connect people to resources and how do I make a living off of it. So again, that was really plan A versus athletics being plan B. So like having a strong support network, and just want to make my mom proud. Like those are the things that drove me or continue to drive me in everything that I do.
Meant to that. What was like? Okay, but since we're kind of we're almost out of it now, and I know a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but since we're there, how did you guys handle COVID with your job?
Also, actually, next week, 2 years from the day, our organization for 54 plus years, we've been completely in person. So all of our students and our volunteers meet at one of our four sites on a weekly basis. Um, and literally like in about 3 weeks we transitioned everything to completely virtual. So out of our 900 plus students, we had about 750 who continued on with us from that March to the end of the year and over the summer. Same thing with our volunteers. We got out maybe 300 350 to 400 Chromebooks to families. So last year we were completely digital. So as far as staff go, we were out of the office, all working remote, and then we were able to transition and get resources out in the form of Chromebooks, headsets, hotspots, and helping out with internet access. And we went completely digital last year. As things continue to progress, for this year, we were able to open up two of our sites again to go back in person, and we still have a digital component. So like that's how we've been functioning. And today is the first day that Chicago is back to being no mask or if you go to like restaurants and gyms and things like that, they will ask for your vaccination card. So today's the first day that we don't have to follow that mandate anymore. So that may transition to us going back in person full time. But with tutoring, and you never know, things can go back to we can go back, relapse or whatnot. So we're always going to have a virtual component of our organization.
You guys like have a plan just in case that does happen, or
Yeah, yeah. So again, we know we're in the process now, maybe potentially open up another site, but again, we're always going to have some digital components to our organization.
what was the challenges that you guys faced during that period?
I think one of the biggest things is just it's just a completely different process of how we were doing program. So we have students in our program again, first through eighth grade, coming from economic and social barriers, families facing those barriers. I think one thing is with the virtual tutoring, it's great opportunity for our students and volunteers to still connect. But we have students who have 504 IEPs who they benefit a lot more by working in person. So I think that was one of the biggest things that took an impact. And then just that being able to go to one site or a site to interact and engage with other volunteers or the students, like that sense of community, I think that took an impact as well. And then you have students who, not just in our program, but just in life, who, you know, interact and engaging with friends and socializing. If they're virtual all day for school, then they come to after school program and they're virtual as well. You can definitely tell it takes a hit on just being able to socialize, especially with us with our middle school. Everyone knows like those are developmental years, and finding different paths you want to go into. And for us to not be able to be in person, definitely, I'm pretty sure it's definitely gonna have some impact.
And now with everything being lifted and kind of going back to normal, how do you feel exactly? Being in the Chicago
Um,
area, I'm saying.
I feel good. I think it does provide an opportunity for you to like move or navigate a little bit more, but we never really stopped. Of course, we vaccinated, we wash our hands, hand sanitizer, and things like that. But we were still going to restaurants and still enjoying the city. I think now that it provides an opportunity for us to interact and engage with even more people now. So we would have people over to the house, but it was always like a smaller group. But now that things are lifted, people are vaccinated, got their boosters. I think more people are willing to come out and socialize and you know open up to even more activities that's taking place in the city.
I'm just thinking about it just now, like when everything shut down. What was it like in Chicago? Were the streets empty? What was it like?
Uh, it was completely crazy. So, and I'll probably share with you after we jump off. Is I went out. We live downtown Chicago, so I went out maybe like 2 weeks after the news broke that COVID and things like that, and I went on Michigan Ave on Saturday at noon, and it was like a complete ghost town. Like, not only was no cars, you didn't hear any noise, no horns. It was also a foggy day, so it literally felt like I was the only person in downtown Chicago. So it was crazy. And then fast forward, I think 2 weeks after that, it was Mother's Day weekend, and I did the same thing. And you know, on a Sunday at noon on Michigan Ave, and you see no cars, you see no people. It was just weird. And I think April of that year, we went to Miami to to be with family, and went to like South Beach, went to Ocean Drive, and it was completely empty as well. So I took all those pictures and I put them in black and white, and it looks like something out of a movie.
And like how you were describing earlier, it would be something that you couldn't really describe. It was something that was like,
Yeah,
wow, this real? Is this actually taking place?
yeah, it's just yeah. And my thought was, if this is taking place here in Chicago, I can only imagine what other cities look like. And like I said, on a normal Saturday, pre-COVID, it's a hustle and bustle. It's tourists and things like that. And to have literally, I was out there maybe an hour and a half and saw maybe 15 cars.
And I'm just thinking, like taking it in right now, just imagining just being in the city and used to being it so busy and just like you said, there's noise all around you, and then for you just to be walking the streets and for there to be nothing happening, and it's a ghost town, you're like, it,
Yeah,
it had to be
it's
like a
just
weird feeling.
it's just a yeah, it's definitely a weird feeling. And then you get to like 6 p.m. and it feels like it's midnight because you don't hear cars, you don't hear anybody. And then even in the building that we lived in, I mean, we have a lot of like common areas like game room, event room, pool area, and you don't even really, for one, they close all amenities off, so you don't get to go down there and see people. So it's just me and my wife and TV, and that's it.
Now,
And everything else is virtual.
I wanted to ask too, because what me and my wife did is when everything was shut down, we traveled. We just went everywhere. Took full advantage of it because everything was cheap, you know. So like, all right, we're gonna do this.
Exactly.
So we started going all over the place, and that's why, as I said, I always tell her like, this thing about it years from now when people talk about this, and they ask like, how do you guys handle that situation? I'm like, it didn't slow us down one bit.
Yeah, we did the exact same thing. I think what was it, that Friday, March 13th or whatever it was, said to the world that the world's shutting down. Like that Saturday, I found like a round trip. It was like I was out grilling at like 7 in the morning, and I was like, I'm gonna just check on some flights, and I found a round trip flight to Atlanta that day for like $32.
Yeah,
So what my wife and I did is, because flights were so cheap and they were lifting like the fees if you change flights and things like that, we just booked flights, and we would just like look at different places to go to. We'll book a flight, and if it comes to that week and we can travel, we'll go. If it comes to that week and we couldn't do it anymore, we'll just push it back to another time. So we did the exact same thing. You get on a flight and it's like 7 people on there, and it's $50.
yeah, that's what I was like loving about the whole shutdown and everything. I was like, dude, I'm about to take advantage of this.
I did it the second day.
See you later. The thing I loved the most though was the low gas prices, man. It
Yeah,
was the gas was cheap. You could fill it up with just like $10. Like,
yeah, yeah, and it was cheap, but it was like I don't have any destinations to drive to. So we definitely filled up, but I was like, yeah, we didn't really drive that much. But as far as traveling go, of course we, you know, wash our hands, hand sanitizer, mask. But yeah, we were definitely traveling, and taking advantage, especially the fact that you can work virtual. So what we did is we just took our laptop. So we went to Miami for a week or two. We'll just go to different places and just work from somewhere else.
would you say that's where it started for you guys? You were like, we could make a thing out of this.
You talking about traveling during the pandemic?
Yeah, would that
Yeah,
is that where it
our,
started
our
for
thought
you?
was, yeah, our thought was, for us to be able to like travel almost anywhere in the world and actually, enjoy it like for a long period of time, it was like we probably won't be able to do that till we retire. So our thought was, this is probably the most ideal time for us to be able to travel anywhere and just work from anywhere. So yeah, we're just going to different places and take our laptop, stay a week, stay a couple days, come back home, and that was it.
What was it like coming back though? You're like, oh, no, what's next?
Uh, that's exactly what it was. Like we'll come back if we had like meetings or anything like that we had to be back, or something that bound us to Chicago, and then we'll go somewhere else.
Yeah, that was cool. All right, what else should I ask you? I feel like I pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, I'm open book. Whatever you got for me.
Oh, okay, let's kind of go back. if somebody was, an athlete's going through the same thing right now, dealing with the same problem, and is just this broken-hearted man, knowing that their career is over, what is your advice to them?
That's a great time question. We literally just had a workshop. Northwestern, I think, from my understanding, is the only university in the country that has a mentoring program for current players that matches current players with former players. And yesterday was one of our workshops, and it was all about identity and mental health. And the two speakers, that's exactly the question that they got. And I would say I would mimic what they said is one, take advantage of your support network, whether it's a coach, a counselor, therapist, parents. Take advantage of your support network. Um, find things that you enjoy. So if you can't play sports but you enjoy watching certain shows or you like art, there's so many other positive outlets that a person can take advantage of. And also that it's not the end of the world. It's not. And realizing that at some point it's going to end anyway. And just starting to write, take those steps to taking those steps a lot sooner than you expected, but just following through, with the plan. I think any athlete who's ever played a sport has always heard you got to have a plan B. So whether you put it on the forefront, you talked about it, you wrote it down, you've heard it at some point. So this is really just, you know, take a day to grieve or whatever you got to do, and then just continue to, get back to work.
What about the guy that doesn't have a plan B? What's your advice to him then?
A person who doesn't have a plan B, I think that's where you got to really utilize your network. So whether it's your mentors, whether it's a parent or guardian, whether it's your teammate, somebody to help you navigate, your plan, whether it's a plan B or just your overall life plan. Taking advantage of therapy if you need it. But yeah, those would be the moments that you utilize and take advantage of your assets that you have access to. Again, coaches, family, and friends, things like that.
Right. What's going on in your life right now? Anything
Oh
that,
man, just
that everybody
like
should know
work.
about?
Work is work. I'm always looking for volunteers. So today is we ended our open enrollment for this program year. So if people are interested in getting involved in volunteering, the fact that we have both in person for those in Chicago, but those who are digital want to volunteer, it's one day a week for 90 minutes. You can do it, those who are outside of Chicagoland area, it's over Zoom, and we'll start enrollment in open enrollment in May. So that's definitely one. Like I mentioned earlier, I do come home or come to Sandusky periodically, whether it's speaking events or different events or speaking engagements or events that I'm doing. So myself and two other SHS alums, Stephen Moore and Brandon Alexander, we're working on an adult prom. So, we started this conversation in the fall of last year, and it was our thought was there's so many people that we know, and I'm pretty sure so many people outside of, just our network who missed out on prom for a variety of different reasons, whether they didn't have the resources, whether they had to work or had a kid early, and they missed out on that night, or it's people who went to prom and wish they can relive that night. So we're in the process now putting together an adult prom. It's going to be May 21st, and it's also dubbed as a charity event. So it's a two-part event. We rented out the Mylander Pavilion that day for a day party from 5:30 to 8:30, and then later on that night we also rented out the good time. So that's the biggest project that we're working on right now, and a portion of the proceeds are going to go to current high school students who may need that additional support for they can enjoy their prime experience. So those are the two biggest things now, and of course looking for my next trip. So I think I text my wife right before we jumped on. I think our next quick trip, we're gonna go to LA. One of my good friends is the head sports writer for the Lakers. Texted him this past weekend, asked I'll get some tickets. He said, of course. So we're gonna try to find a game over the next month to get out to LA and catch a Lakers game.
All right. Well, I'm gonna wrap this thing up. And I just want to say
Okay,
thanks for coming on and telling your story and letting people know the inside, what's going on in your world.
no problem. Thank you. And it was again, just thank you for the opportunity. I hope that something I said resonates with someone and help them on their path to success. And I think it was a quick turnaround. I think we talked on LinkedIn yesterday, and look at us today.
Yep. And just like I said before, we don't know each other. We just met.
Just met.
A
That's
lot,
true.
a lot of
That's
people
true.
think that though. A lot of people think I have like I know everybody, but nope. We just met the other day. Started talking. I was like, I gotta have you on the show, man.
No problem. And again, I thank you for the opportunity. You know, thank you for putting this platform together. You know, that's one thing I've always been fascinated by is people's stories. You know, the good, the bad, the ugly. You know, the origins, the base, the foundation. So I definitely thank you for not only allowing me to be a part of the show today, but putting this platform together that allows other people to kind of tell their story and hopefully impact, motivate someone else in their story. So thank you.
Yeah, and that's the whole idea of this platform. It doesn't matter who you are. You're allowed to come on here, and you can tell your story, or you can do whatever you want. You can talk about your testimony. You can do whatever. Anyway,
I
as we
feel
wrap
it.
this thing up, man. Yeah. If anybody wants to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you? They want to get in touch with
Oh
you.
man, I'm on Facebook. It's my name, Da'Sheon Nix. That's probably the easiest way. I try to be as accessible as possible. Um, I've I've had the same cell phone number, a 419 number for 22 years now. But I think Facebook would probably be the easiest way to kind of interact with me or get in contact.
All right. I just want to say thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Tune in next time for our next story, and maybe it might be yours.
All right. Thank you, sir. Enjoy your night.
But anyway, peace
Bye.
out, everybody.
Yay! Yes.